Welcome back to End Times Prophecy News and the 10 o'clock report. Here's what the biggest tax cut in U.S. history will look like. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin confirmed Wednesday that the Trump administration aims to lower business tax rates to 15%. The proposal will constitute the biggest tax cut for Americans in history. Well, here we have White House tax rate, House tax reform. Looks like it's cut off here. Cut corporate tax rate to 15%. Cut rates for S-corps to 15%. Double standard deduction for taxpayers, $6,300 now increased to $12,600. $24,000 for family of 4. Let's take a look at this. Mnuchin vows biggest tax cut in U.S. history. Confirms plan to slash.
This was a busy day for the Treasury Secretary of the United States, meeting with his counterpart from Canada, visiting the Treasury Department here in Washington, D.C. But before he had a chance to sit down with the Canadian money guy, he sat down with, the FDN money guy, one of them at least, a chat that we had a chance to get into what the president got into last night. And, of course, it had to do with the doability of everything this president wants to get accomplished within the next few months. Take a look. After the president's speech, a lot more people seem to be confident, judging from the market reaction elsewhere, that he will get a lot of what he wants done. Do you think he will?
Absolutely. I think he's committed to it. I think he's going to deliver on it. And I think you saw last night the excitement in the room. One of the things you just probably couldn't see on TV is feel the energy that was in that room. It was really quite extraordinary.
Such addresses, I guess, Secretary, are not meant to spell out a lot of details. Some have expressed concern that there were very few, if any, details of, for example, how he would pay for a lot of the things he wants to do, including $1 trillion infrastructure program. He obviously means that as a this-year event, right?
He does. So, first let me say, this was an address to the American public, and I think it was very clear. It was about unification. It was about optimism. It was about the goals that the president wants to accomplish, and I think he did an unbelievable job delivering that message, and I think you've seen the reaction to that.
But this year for the $1 trillion?
Absolutely.
And where will that money come from?
Well, the $1 trillion, it'll be a combination of a public and private partnership. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be $1 trillion off of the government's balance sheet, but the president is determined that we are going to do an infrastructure plan that's going to be very significant, one of the most significant we've ever seen, and we're going to rebuild America.
Now, part of that whole address was also saying that he still stands by these tax cuts, still stands by boosting military spending at $54 billion a year. One of the means by which he was going to pay for that, I guess, Secretary, was to cut the State Department budget. That was a non-starter in Lindsey Graham's view, that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Mitch McConnell, Republican leader, Senate leader, saying much the same. What did you think of that instant reaction that no, not there?
Well, let me just say, the budget process starts with the president and the administration, but it goes through a congressional appropriations process. So this is the start of it. And the administration is going to work with Congress on this. I think the message that the president wanted to deliver was loud and clear. He wants to rebuild the military. It's important to do it. And we're going to pay for that by cutting other things and not just ballooning the deficit. And I think that message is loud and clear.
But if the option for the State Department cutting wasn't enough to compensate for that increase, and that option is taken off the table, where else could you go? What else could you do? I know the EPA was mentioned, but even that would raise a fraction of the money you're adding to defense.
This was just a start. It's a start of the process. I think what's important is the message. The message is the president wants to spend more money on military, make our military build up competitive, and we're going to pay for that by cutting other areas. Like any other discussion or negotiation, and you know the president is the best negotiator in the world, we will work through these numbers. So I think what's important is the message, and we'll work with Congress to figure out how it's funded.
You know, the defense thing was curious, sir, because in just 2 phone calls, the president was able to shave significant sums, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions over the years, between the Air Force One contract and a jet fighter contract. So that was what he was able to do to trim excess or maybe unnecessary spending in defense just in a day. So why add $54 billion when maybe you could multiply that out and extract even more savings so that you don't have to increase the budget at all?
Well, first of all, not only is he the commander-in-chief, but he's the negotiator-in-chief, and he's proud of, in 2 telephone calls, he's saved a lot of money, and he's going to continue to do that. But this is not just about cutting back the cost. This is about adding additional resources, making investments, getting the military back to where it needs to be so that it has the proper facilities to protect the country.
Is it your sense that the tax cuts hinge on getting, first of all, the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act repeal and ultimate replace done first? That's an unequivocal stance. If that gets into trouble, that's another issue, but that first. Still stand by that.
Well, first of all, we're going to get it both done. The reason why we did Obamacare first was that is the priority right now, and we need more time.
Do you regret that priority?
Not at all.
The way that Congress is handling it?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think...
Were you surprised that it... And the president's even mentioned that this was enormously complex, much more difficult than he thought. Were you?
No, I think these are complicated issues, and we're working through these complex issues, and we're going to get it done, and we're working closely with Congress to get it done. I think that Obamacare will get done first, and I think tax, we're working very closely with the House and the Senate on coming up with a combined plan. We will be coming out with that in the near future, and our objective is to pass tax reform by the August recess. And I think that's a very aggressive timetable, but realistic and something that the president and I are very committed to doing.
So by August, voted, done, agreed.
And signed.
And signed. Effective, retroactive, the beginning of the year?
I think it's too early to tell whether it's going to be retroactive or not. I mean, those are the types of details we'll work through as we get to drafting.
All right. The reason I go back to Obamacare, sir, is this feeling, I wouldn't call it a revolt, but a difference, a dramatic difference of opinion we're seeing play out on the Hill between those who like Speaker Ryan's plan, complete with tax credits to help people buy insurance, and others who say that's just Obamacare light and will be a disaster. There's not much wiggle room, right? I mean, 2 senators in the Senate, obviously, 22 House members in the House, so are you worried that this is slipping away?
Not at all. I mean, I think this is only natural in the sense of there's a lot of different good ideas. And I think one of the things that you see from President Trump is he's willing to listen. He's willing to listen to people who have different ideas. He takes it all in, and then he figures out what he thinks is the best plan, being open-minded to these views and getting it done. And I think you've seen this in regards to, we've met with lots of different business leaders. He's had manufacturing CEOs, he's had airline CEOs, he's had auto, he's had small businesses. This is a president that's willing to listen before he makes decisions.
Still, as you know, Secretary Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase, the Price Waterhouse CEO this morning, expressing concerns about that timetable, both saying it appears increasingly unlikely, at least the way they're looking at things, that August time frame, even a this year time frame on the tax cuts. Any message for them?
Well, my comment is when you come out with a very aggressive plan that you want to get done, of course you start with the view that it's unlikely. This president is not sitting around and having an agenda that is conservative and likely. This is a president who wants to get things done and wants to get it done.
Does it trouble you when
a
gigantic figure in the Wall Street community is still expressing great admiration for you and what you're doing, but says, I don't know, this year maybe not? Well,
we'll see. We're going to deliver on this. Again, I think it's aggressive, but we're going to get it done.
All right. Do you agree in the broad parameters of the text? I talked to Kevin Brady, the House Ways and Means Committee Secretary, and he said that you have...
Well, I'm going to let you listen to the rest of that. It looks like Steve Mnuchin is just saying basically it's all going to happen. It's green light, everything's looking good. Over and over, he keeps saying the same thing pretty much. So let's go to the Word of God. Let's finish up Isaiah 45. God says, I have made the earth and created man upon it. Even my hands have stretched out the heavens, and all their host have I commanded. I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith the Lord of hosts. Thus saith the Lord, the labor of Egypt, and merchandise of Ethiopia, and of the Sabaeans, men of stature, shall come over unto thee, and shall be thine. They shall come after thee. In chains they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, Surely God is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God. Verily thou art a God that hideth thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior. They shall be ashamed and also confounded, all of them. They shall go to confusion together that are makers of idols. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it, he hath established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the earth. I said not unto the seed of Jacob, Seek ye me in vain. I, the Lord, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right. Assemble yourselves and come. Draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image, and pray unto a God that cannot save. Thank you for listening, and we'll continue at verse 21.
If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves, and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin.